Okay, cool.
All right, here we go. All
Sorry
right.
about the delay, Brian.
All right, Brian. Thank you very much for joining us. For the viewers, if you'd like to, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah, my name is Brian Silverman. Thank you so much for having me. I'm the writer, director, one of the producers, and an actor in Two Lives in Pittsburgh, which is going to be independent film. You guys were talking about independent films a little bit ago, and then we're going to be streaming for distribution starting October 1st on the major platforms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent.
That is
thank you.
To check out at the film festival, but I wasn't able to get away from it, so I'm glad you guys picked up distribution.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that was you host the kind of overview of the Sunscreen Film Festival, and we were fortunate enough to have a spot there this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get to meet
Lola and Tiffany.
Yep. Lola and Tiffany. Yeah, they were very cool, very nice people. Had a great time talking with them.
It's really cool that Lola
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Lola is she's our main producer. Tiffany, a producer and a amazing cinematographer, and yeah, they loved their time at the festival. Love talking to you guys, and so I'm happy to be able to follow that up and join you here for some talk and chill.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go ahead and just kick it off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the movie Two Lives in Pittsburgh, kind of how you got involved with the project, your directing experience, just kind of a little overview about it.
Yeah, great. So it started, probably about 2016, little nuggets of the idea. I've been an actor for a long time, and I wanted to make something that really vibed with me. And so I was trying to model something off of Kramer versus Kramer, some of those 80s movies, Tootsie, some of those 80s movies that really hit me. And I was always a Dustin Hoffman fan. So I knew I wanted kind of his in those couple of movies, he has this transformation as a guy, a man who just needs to learn something, right? He's missing a little chunk of his understanding of life or sexes or himself. And then there's lots of different beginnings of how to write this movie, because in the end it's about a traditional blue collar guy whose mother is passing and his kid is exploring their gender identity, and he has to deal with that and kind of this, especially with his child, navigate that challenge between who he's always been and who his kid needs him to be. And the nugget, one of the nuggets of the idea came from when Michael Sam came out in the draft. I don't know if you guys remember that. I think it was about 2015. I found it just remarkable that one, that it was shocking, and that there seemed to be an overall view by a lot of people, by a lot of middle America, that, well, he's the first gay person in football, as opposed to the first gay person that came out. And I just think that kind of denial, or whatever it might be, I think that's really interesting, because it's not, there's no meanness about it. It was just that the kind of willful avoidance of the idea that, of course, there's gay people in football, they just weren't coming out, and how the regular fan would deal with that, I thought it would be interesting. And so that kind of led down this path of how to develop this story of a regular guy dealing with something that he'd rather not deal with.
Very cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting story.
And then in addition, like with the next evolution of it was I'm a teacher, I'm a special education teacher, and during that time, some of one kid in particular, one of my students in particular, came from a traditional Latino Catholic family, and they were really sweet and had a challenging time navigating their kids' transition. And so sometimes within the current society, there's a lack of patience, it seems. Maybe not as much now, but a year or two ago, there seemed like a lack of patience to let people adjust, right? To let people understand that, or to be a little bit gentle or forgiving with people's evolution of acceptance of somebody's transition in their gender. Um, and uh, and again, I wanted to jump into those people's shoes because I think that's most of us. I was listening to what you were talking about, independent films, and you were talking about Hard Candy. No, not Hard Candy. Yeah, Hard Candy with Elliot Page.
Yep.
And there's that kind of again, compassionate like lack of certainty of how to refer to what when they weren't Elliot Page and they were Ellen Page. Like, how are we supposed to refer to that? You know, which is a reason that, to me, that seems like a reasonable question. And so I wanted to empathize with that part of the community out there of we're not going to get it right all the time, but we can still have compassion.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The best we can do is try. And
Yeah, I think.
So how long did it take, like when you came up with this, this concept, this idea to do it from basically from concept to screen? What would you say that time frame was to get this whole project done? Because that seems like a pretty big project to do. So
yeah, it's surprisingly, it's a little hard to get a whole feature film, written and made and and out there. I would say the nugget of the idea starting in about 2016, and then wrapping the shooting, the production 2020, and then finishing up the edit in the summer of 2021.
okay.
So it was like a 5-year journey. And fortunately, we got a little assist from, was it 2020 or 2000? No, 2020. Now it gets all screwy. 2022 is when we finished filming.
I'm assuming it's that little thing called COVID.
Yeah, so which we got that assist from COVID, because it gave us an extra year, and for us, I think that was helpful. We were all set to shoot 2020. I guess we shot 2021, and then edited all through 2022. But that gave us time to sit to rework some things that I think made it better. And then we of course had to shoot during COVID, so that unfortunately bumps up the cost. The whole, like, for all the film world, and of course the money, is tighter in the indie film world. That's an additional, I don't know, 15-20% cost just to get it tested and do all the protocols and everything. Mm-hmm. But it was a long time in the making, but all of it was fulfilling and fun and kind of magical. Even the things, looking back, it's kind of like pregnancy, right? Mm-hmm. Even the things that were painful now seem a little bit magical.
Yep. It pays off in the end.
It pays off in the end. For sure.
The reason why I asked that is because, we've done quite a few interviews, not just at the film festival, but like with you, like we're doing now, with other directors outside the state and stuff. And, everybody's got a different story on the time frames and the timelines. Some people have a decent amount of money and, a lot of people and, a lot of resources. They're able to just hammer it out. A little thing like COVID didn't get in the way of them.
Yeah.
Then we had the one guy that did Hanky Panky. He did this movie called Hanky Panky, and
which is amazing.
Yeah, it was a great movie. It's very, very unique, but it's I think, what did he say? He edited that. The editing took it was like
3 years or something like
longer
that.
than that. I thought it was more than that.
Yeah.
I think it was like his total project time was like almost 10 years.
Yeah, it was like a decade long, to get the thing done. And it wasn't his normal everyday job. They were still trying to work and do the regular thing, and he's like, he'd do some of the editing, someone else would do some of the editing, and back and forth. So it's really kind of interesting to see the different timelines on all the different films and interviews that we do.
Yeah, and that is true. Like, as you all know, when you're in the independent world, there's no money, and you're probably not going to make any money back. Sometimes you hit the jackpot and you have a Blair Witch or something of that sort. But for most people, this is finding those spots of time when your day job or your regular job isn't navigating into your time. We paid our actors, we paid our crew, but it's not as much as they would get on a bigger set. And you know, and it's it for all that time it takes, and I think for most independent features it does take quite a while. Uh, there's that thing that we're all chasing, this idea or this dream of being able to have this be our full careers, and so it's so much fun, and it's so fulfilling, and we're working on these baby projects, right, that mean so much to us. So so it's pretty easy to give all that time, but it does take a while.
Mhm.
And you know, I was on another one called After We Leave, and during that whole filming, it took about 7 years to make. You know, we had kids being born, people being married, you know, all kinds of changes in life. And I think I'm a believer that all those things add to the movie, like the feelings of the crew, the cast, everybody uh, infiltrates the movie uh, through heart and passion. And so, you know, when you get all these filmmakers who want to say something, really have something to say, uh, that's kind of your budget, right? You're talking about Wolverine and Deadpool before, and no, those guys had chemistry out the wazoo. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, sometimes they're able to, with all the funding that a big movie has, they can kind of like manufacture or iron out a lot. And in an independent film, I don't think you can. I think you just need everybody's goodwill and everybody's passion and everybody's pride, and that adds, I think, production value.
Well, and I would say too, the other nice thing about on the flip side of independent film, yeah, you don't have like as much or a lot of money and resource that's all really coming from you and your, your team and the people involved, but you also have complete control over the vision and where it's going to go. When you get into these big studio budgets, a writer's a writer until that script goes to the studio, and then they're probably never going to see that thing again. It's probably not going to be anything close to what they initially envisioned it. I mean, sometimes they get lucky and they get on as, a creative consultant or something. But so I think that's the nice part also about India is just the control of it. Your vision, your dream comes out the way you want it, within means. If there's something that's just not possible to shoot physically, you make adjustments, but overall your general idea comes across the way you want it to.
That's true. We get to have that authorship, and we get to you're saying sometimes you don't have the money to do the thing that you originally wanted to do, but so much creativity comes from that limitation, because then you really have to think, okay, we wanted this big, overhead shot. We can't do it. And then you have to get creative, and you have that whole pool of people being able to be creative. And as far as the individual vision, the other thing that I think is smart, and I don't know, I liked it on our film, is you have to be careful of your ego when you have that much control, because other people's ideas are oftentimes better, and so you have to use that. And especially, I was coming on as a writer director, one of the producers, and I didn't edit, but I was obviously involved heavily, and as an actor, and so the team, and working with Lola and Tiffany, having their inputs, and then to about things that work, things that doesn't work, about shots, about about preparing for the shoot, about casting, everything. If you maybe there's people out there, maybe there's like Tarantino's and things who can just say, no, I got it all, or I got it all, I know exactly the vision. But for me, I knew that I was going to be better if I let everybody bring me up, right, and add their skill set, and just let myself be humbled whenever there were the opportunity arose to be humbled. Let myself be humbled so that other people can add to the film. And that part's the a lot of personal growth and personal fulfillment, and to know that, okay, this is not it's my film because my name's underneath the title and all, but it's a such a collective process. It's one of the great things about film. It's such a collective process, and letting other people's ideas breathe just makes that film so much better.
And that's good because sometimes, you know, when you get a project and you feel like it's your baby, like you can get tunnel vision on something, and it's great to get that outside perspective to give it, you know, that much more richer feeling.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys watch so many movies, and with the independent world, sometimes I'll watch, especially an independent film, and as I'm watching, I'll think, I think the director was the editor. You know, that one especially I noticed
Yeah.
because as soon as those scenes last too long, or it's just a little bit of, you know, being too precious with their cuts, or to something, I'm like, I think they edited it themselves. They needed somebody else to pass on this and tell them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, you gotta cut, you know, you gotta split the baby here. You gotta cut it up a little bit.
Yeah. You don't need a 3.5 hour movie.
You don't, right? Well, that's true too. Like these, you know, sometimes I'll screen for you know, act as a screener for festivals, and an indie that comes in over 2 hours, you're like, you're asking a lot, right? Try to get it, you know. And I started with that goal too, from page numbers through to the final edit. We're like, get us to 90, get us to 90, and my original script was, I think, 160 pages. But I wrote that knowing that, all right, we're gonna cut, you know, you know, a third of this at least, and get this down to 90 pages, so that you can make the hard choice and say, well, which one's better? Which one's better? You know, and there's that sometimes within the whole process, there's that when when you go to the optometrist, or which one's the one that's the eye doctor, and they go better, worse, better, worse. We do a lot of better, worse throughout the writing process, throughout the production process, throughout the editing, and almost always, you know, leaving the audience wanting more is almost always a little bit better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not everybody
Yeah.
sees, you know, you get a lot of these movie connoisseurs. Everybody goes out and sees the Deer Hunter and think they need to make that. It's like, not everything is Deer Hunter, you know. And even that was a little long, if
Yeah.
on a lot of parts. So, you know, you could tell they could have cut that a little bit more, but phenomenal movie. But yeah, everybody's like, I want to make something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and then again, it's that idea of limitations, and so limitations and then opportunities. Like so many times throughout that year, you know, talking to other filmmakers, and lots of times the crafting of the movie, you craft it to what you have. I met one woman who did Shutterbug, and she had this house up in, I forget, I think it was upstate New York, and so you have to craft it to that. It's like, that's a huge opportunity. If you have a house that you can use, you know, for a film, then, you know, that's going to be free. Then as much as you want to make Deer Hunter and float down the river with people, you know, trying to shoot at you, just go to the house. It's free. You can make something, you know, and craft your movie around that, because in the end, it's story. You know, all the effects are cool on the bigger budgets, and stars are always cool to see, but inevitably people get wrapped into story. And if there's a connection with the, you know, the path that character is taking on the screen, and, you know, as long as the sound is good, because I think that'll drop us out. As long as the sound is good, and there's a path that those characters are taking on the screen, people will watch it. People will be drawn somehow. You know, we all have our preferences, but story is everything. It's the human heart. We just want to follow something that reflects part of our life. You know, that, you know, bringing back to Two Lives in Pittsburgh, it's that, to me, that navigation. What, you know, what does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to be a man? Can I be a man the way I want it to be, and raise a kid who doesn't want to be a boy, right? And raise a kid who identifies as a girl, and that journey, although not everybody has it, I think everybody experiences something like that. You know, being presented with a part of their life where that doesn't match how they expected it to happen, and having to move on and deal with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And I like kind of to your credit, you know, talking about, you know, sound. I mean, music plays a huge part in several scenes too. I mean, you know, you can have the actors on screen delivering great lines, but sometimes that music just sends you into like another transcendent emotion. And you know,
Oh, yeah.
we were talking about, you know, Deadpool and like their ability to take songs that would never match that scene and then have it actually hit and make you feel like a certain way. It was really cool.
I'll
But
never see Like a Prayer.
yeah, I know, I
again.
know. But I think that's a huge ordeal too. So like, how did you come up with any like the music compositions for the, you know, to kind of set the tone in the movie? How did you, you know, go about research for that, or did
It's
somebody else come in and overlay that?
That's a great question. Yeah, because it does. I can't think about how many times I've watched Goodfellas and just you listen to that music for each scene. It's so powerful.
Yes.
Uh, and and so with the music, we have the score, and Kat Semrek did the score, and so she, uh, you know, her and I talked through. You know, she read the script and connected with the script, and then we talked about kind of a, a little bit about the instruments and kind of the tone that I think about when I write, right? Because it's Pittsburgh. I don't know how well you know Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is a city where you land at the airport. If you turn on the local radio, within the first, you know, half hour being there, you're bound to still hear like you know, Bachman Turner Overdrive and Rush and, you know, Zeppelin and Allman Brothers. They're going to be on the radio just constantly, right? So it's in that era, uh, and of that classic rock. It's a classic rock city. Even, you know, there's other, you know, Wiz Khalifa's from Pittsburgh, but when I think of the city, it's crazy. It's crazy how you know how consistent the sound coming out of the radio is, uh, and so I wanted to grab a little bit of that. We talked about kind of the steel strings coming out of a Fleetwood Mac song, or uh, and the pianos coming from Springsteen, and so we wanted to mirror that a little bit, and at the same time, uh, you know, there's something else which was really interesting, and this was all a discovery for me and an exploration of sound with me for Kat, and it was, you know, there was one time in particular where there was a tense scene, and uh and the music just wasn't hitting because I think it was we were trying to make it do too much, and we watched this scene in what was the movie Job? What was the Fassbender film when he played Stephen Jobs, right? And um and it was there was this like really tense situation, and it was just one note, right? Just like a humming note, and it reflected kind of that internal kind of vibration. And so sometimes, you know, the score would lean all the way down into just that internal feeling, and it was really, really, you know, exciting to explore that. And then sometimes it would maybe play uh, a little bit more towards what the audience might be feeling or thinking, you know, with the strings and the kind of the pianos coming. And so all of it was so much fun to kind of mirror the, you know, how we want to help the audience experience that that moment in the film without manipulating them. And then finding the music and the songs. I wanted to get as many Pittsburgh artists as we could. So we reached out. I did, which was a blast, right? Searching online for Pittsburgh artists. And at the same time, you can't force it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we found some local bands and singers, and that we were able to make work well with the film. And again, it's the belief that if there's passion and feeling behind it, it bleeds into the film. It bleeds into the authenticity, and especially since it's such a Pittsburgh movie, it lends that authenticity to it. So we had a couple of folks like that, and then I got this through a friend from work. Her husband has a kind of a music title company, a small one that kind of boutique, and we found some music that he gave to me really inexpensively that had that same kind of Aerosmith, the Guess Who, or kind of like that good hard charging, strong guitar, 80s, late 70s, early 80s rock feel. And it just made me so happy. It made, certain things in the film that had that vibe was just.
Give me some old school Neil Peart.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just that banging on the drums and a little bit of glam, a little bit of jean, a little bit of denim, a little bit of hair, and it really elevated the film. And then we have, there was times. The last scene that we have, which is kind of that stand up and cheer moment. Finding the music for that was, again, going back to my team. I wanted this one song, and they thought it was just too bubblegum. I really liked it, but then again, I love Party in the USA by Molly Cyrus. So like, I like bubblegummy stuff. Yeah. So, but eventually, through that same friend, we found a great song that's really uplifting and fun and simple and mirrors the theme of the film. But I did try, because during the writing process, I would listen to this one song by Jason Isbell, and it really it's the life you choose. And so we reached out to his people to try to get that song for the end. And it just didn't work out. But again, sometimes the song is in there, even if it's not in there, right? Because it's working towards the tone of the writing. It's working towards the tone of the scene, and the emotional, the emotional moment. And then another thing on the music that we did do that we're so fortunate for is the opening song. Like when we the first song that we hear in the film is called the Gender Dystopian Blues, and it's such a rocking song, and it's by a transgender artist, and it's about, without being able to hear the lyrics too hard, because it has a little bit of that kind of Kinks, Violent Femmes kind of feel. It's talking about the ideas of the film without being, too in your face about it, because you can't really tell unless you hear it a couple times, or unless you know the song. But it kicks off. I remember in the script, I originally had a Prince song playing there, and so then the editor put in what are those guys called? White. Who's the Detroit guy? Not Mike White, Jack White. He put in Jack White song there. It was just rocking, right? That grunge, not grunge, but that garage feel, garage hard rock band type
garage
of stuff.
punk.
And so, and so that led us to to where we were, and it was a lot of fun. I don't consider myself at all like I follow other people's trends in music and you know, discover bands through others. So that was really exploratory for me. It was fun. But it does, you're right. It makes so much difference. If you have the wrong music in there, the wrong score, uh it the music doesn't do what you want it to do. Yeah, that was
Nice.
fun. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, actually, we kind of caught on a good segue time here real fast. So I wanted to let you know, what I'm going to have to do is, because we don't have the full version of Zoom, so it only lets us to go up to a certain amount of time in one
Right,
shot.
right.
If you want to stick around for a bit, we can resend you another link, and then
Okay.
I think it refreshes in like 5 minutes, or it takes like 5 or 7 minutes. So we'll end here, but I'll send you another link in just a second, and then we'll jump back on, and then we'll finish up the interview. I want to make sure because I'm really enjoying the conversation here.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure you get your full time on our show. So we'll be back in just a bit. We'll send you that link in 1 minute, and then we'll regroup probably about 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, the
Sounds
recording
good.
render for a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Sounds
We'll
good.
see you in just. All right. So welcome back again. Apologize for the stuff there. Zoom, wants to make you pay a lot of money to get this full version. Things.
Everybody needs to get their cut, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes, we
This
don't
is it's an independent podcast, right? It's reflecting
Yeah.
an independent film. That's right.
Remember we were talking about having no money?
Yeah, absolutely.
we're very familiar with that.
But just to kick back off, I know we ended with talking about the music and stuff. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick about this, this film and stuff was, in your opinion or from your experience with it, what do you think that the hardest part was to get this thing going or to get it completed or out there? Was there one portion of it that was just like, this is just super hard? Like, how are we going to do this? Whether it become like, casting or locations or even the music portion of it.
So even though for us we were so blessed because it wasn't hard, what should have been the hardest part um, was casting Maddie. The character Maddie is written as a 8 to 10 year old transgender girl, and so if you think about, and we were so lucky to have uh, uh, Emma Vasquez come on and be Maddie, and she is a transgender girl who at the time when she auditioned was probably, I think she was 8 or 9 when she first auditioned, and she filmed it as 10. And so you think about this dynamic, right? We're filming in Pittsburgh. We in this day and age, even though I believe the role could be played by a a girl, born a girl at birth, or the kind of like atmosphere of film and society, especially in 2021, we kind of needed to have a transgender girl play this role. And you think about how hard this is. So we're filming in Pittsburgh during the summer. We're going to need this person for for about 4 weeks, and we're limited budget, so there's just not that many 8 to 11 year old transgender girls at all, right, in the entire country. And then you have to figure someone who actually wants to act, right, to be in a film, which is again breaking that down a lot more. And then you need somebody whose parents can afford to be there for 4 weeks, and who are willing to do that for basically coverage of rent and a little bit of independent film money, which is not very much money for the acting. And we found that person, which is just crazy, right? It's just such a small pool of people. And not only did we find her, but she's fantastic. Both, the family's great. She was a blast. She had fun. It was a wonderful experience, which was important to me. Like that, a kid on a film set is a lot. It's a lot, and you got to make sure that this is something that they're going to be happy with over time, and especially a kid who is transgender. we were really specific and encouraging with the parents to almost that thing where, look, if there's doubt, you have to turn it down. You can't let your kid do this if there's any doubt that the end product or the thing, it's spicy. We have a lot of bad language and other, and intolerance and things that show up in the film. So you have to be sure that that you're good with where we're going, right? And you have to, if there's any hesitation about us or anything in the film, you just don't do it to your kid. So we found that, and that was incredibly hard, even though somehow for us it worked out so easily. And then again, another thing that's hard, but it happened was getting the authentic Pittsburgh accents, right? Because that was I grew up in Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. I wanted to be a tribute to Pittsburgh. And so I wanted, Bernie has his Pittsburgh accent. I wanted to be authentic on film. And I wanted the other guys that were in there to have that, natural Pittsburgh accent. And so we had, we did some casting in Pittsburgh, but we found some folks out in LA who were dying to do a film back in Pittsburgh who could bring that authenticity to the film. So that was fantastic. And a challenge that, kind of disappeared when we found the cast. And there's, I think about other things that are hard. We had an actor drop about 4 days before the role started. But we had done our job in casting and knew that we had some other people, and it was a good role. It was the grandma role. And so that was going to be hard, but we ended up, calling up Annie O'Donnell, and she played Grammy, Carla Evers in the film, and just knocked it out of the park. And it was she's been acting for her entire life, right? So her first film role was with Peter Falk on a Cassavetes film back when, and this was her first kind of lead role in a feature film. So to be able to, to give her that, and for her to be able to help solve our problem, it was great. Again, it's like a little bit of, I don't know if I believe in karma or not, but it was a little bit of, I think we were trying to do good. We were trying to do right by people. And so a lot of our challenges ended up just being solved. We had a bed bug infestation in our main house, like 1.5 days before shoot. We discovered this, like when we were filming, where we had a production office, we discovered like just an gross infestation of bed bugs. And so we had to drop all of our everything. We had to move our entire production, like 36 hours before principal photography. So there's always the challenges, but we figured it out.
Yeah, I remember Tiffany telling us that story, and she also told us a story about how one of your sets caught fire because there was a transformer that blew up, like right outside.
Yeah, that was great. Oh, well, it wasn't our set. We were stealing that. We were stealing that shot. Like there was this cool little, beautiful blue, kind of like industrial. I think it wasn't quite a factory, even though it looked like a factory, but it was a shipping area. And so we just stole the shot, right? We parked which you do a lot in feature films. You're just like, all right, let's see if we can get this, right? So we set the camera up across the street, and I was doing my thing. And then, as they're filming, there's the transformer just falls down, is on fire. And so, we were the first ones to be there for that. And they were able to put it out pretty quickly. But, those are all the joys of independent film. There's another part where we wanted this. It was in the scene in the script where we had this lake to go fishing. It was kind of Maddie. It was supposed to be the first experience of being out in public, just as a girl. and there's this fishing scene, and we had been in touch with the VFW to potentially use their bar, or use their area as a set, and then once COVID happened, we didn't really want to do that because of public, so we moved it to garage instead, and we made it a man cave. But still, we kept in touch with them when we were there. We were over there, having some beers in pre-production, and just talking with people about the movie. And this one guy had just gone fishing that day, and he's like, "Oh, here's where you got to go. You get this." And so he told us about this little fishing spot that is kind of it's in the suburbs, but it's so close to the city. But then once you're there, you don't see, it's just a fishing hole. It looks like a fishing hole. So we found all kinds of solved all kinds of problems just by drinking a little beer.
I mean, that was my motto in college.
Yeah.
It's amazing what it can solve.
Sometimes you just need a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It helps.
So do you have, now that this is out, and you did say it's going to be going to streaming, right? It's available on
Yeah.
streaming services. Now that you've got that going and it's out there, is there another project you're working on currently or thinking about working on? Is there something you could talk about? I don't know, I know a lot of times if you're not ready yet, you don't want to talk about it.
We've had to cut a lot out of our film festival.
So it's not streaming yet. It'll be streaming. I think it'll be on Apple and Amazon and for rent and purchase on October 1st, I think is when it goes.
Okay.
And as far as projects, I don't have anything, a full script written yet, but I have some thoughts, and I do. It's we were talking before about kind of using what you have. If you have the house, you use the house, and so I have to think about, what do I have? What can I make it cheaply, or inexpensively, however you want to think of that, because hunting money, I think, what's the hardest part of filmmaking, and as much as all the other stuff is hard, at least for me, the most challenging part is figuring out where does the money come from. And you use your own money as much as you can, and then you gather from friends and family, which is, again, I don't consider myself having a strong skill set in gathering money. Some people are so good at it, right? It's that sales thing.
Mhm.
And I have friends who are salespeople, and it's genuine. It's not like some type of scam. It's genuine. They believe, they have comfort asking for the money because they believe in the project, and I believe in the project, but they still don't have that comfort of asking for money. So I have to think about what I have, and so where I'd like to go, what I'd like to create is kind of like the end of life Boyhood. If you remember Boyhood, they filmed it over 10 years or so. Linklater filmed it over 10 years, and
Richard Linklater film. Yep.
Yeah, and I love that the kind of the authenticity of that change, right? Of seeing that kid grow up, and the truth about how life changes, over those years. And so I'd like to do that more at the end of life. I think that's an interesting thing. And as you get older, I have to, again, using what I have, I'm a guy who's only going in one direction. I'm only going to get older. And so I have that.
Yeah.
And the same with so many of my friends. And there's so many actors, filmmakers, everybody who are so talented, and don't have the opportunity to work the same as others. It's not, I think with acting and film and things, it's not like the NBA or the NFL, where inevitably, if you have that drive, like the people that make the professional sports are the best. And in film, the people who get to that level where they're stars and they're on TV shows and they're in movies and they're behind the camera, they still are. They're fantastic, but there's a whole crew that's, I believe, are just happenstance away from that, as opposed to in sports where the skill is the same. And you talk to, any kind of person that's been out there and having success, and they know 10, 20 people who they think in their mind, like, why didn't that person, rise to the level of stardom? So there's so many talented people that want to work. And so that's another thing that I have. I have gobs of people who I know who want to work. So be able to leverage that, and then um, and then to also be able to make a film over like 10 or 15 years, because as much as I'd like to make more, I really like the process. I like making them, and so that would kind of spread out that joy over a longer period of time, and be a little bit experimental and creative. So that's where I'd like to go next. Um, but that'll be a long time in coming. I think what I need to do is figure out how to make shorts within that block. So like if we're going to film every 5 years, to have a short that goes along with that time period, so I can, I don't know, kind of like chum the water as we move forward, and maybe have something to show and interest people as we go.
Oh, very cool, man.
That's
Well,
awesome.
Yeah.
And just if you're ever looking for like a location area or whatever, and like you did that one in Pittsburgh, just a heads up for you as a filmmaker, because we do know like some of the people in the film commission here in the St. Petersburg, Clearwater area.
Right.
If you film a movie down here in Florida, in this area, you can sign up. They actually do like a rebate program. Like they'll get you X amount of dollars percentage of what you put into your film back to you, just for filming here. So just
Oh wow.
to think about it in your endeavors. If you ever want to do a short in this area, you could always, that, like you said, you don't really always make money, but you do get something back. That was something that the previous film commissioner was really pushing. The guy who created the film festival, Sunscreen, he's super proud of it. Still part of this area. So that's just something to throw out for you if you ever want
That's
to.
great. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
I always like to pitch for
And,
people,
and,
man.
so
Yeah,
if you
pitch.
need any, extras, just walk around in the background.
If you need two guys to drink beer in the back of a shop.
Well, we will
You always
volunteer.
always.
Brian's gonna call us and be like, "Hey guys, I got this idea about a podcast.
Yeah.
You guys already have the equipment." So.
You become technical advisors.
Hey.
No, that's fantastic, man. We got a little bit of time left. Just want to just make sure we get our full hour in. But is there, just want to take the next few minutes if there's anything, like you said, you're kind of what you want to work on right now. But you said it'll be on Apple, and what was the other one for streaming?
Amazon.
We should
Amazon?
Apple, Amazon, maybe Google Play. Like the way that this is all new to me, but I guess the way that there's a progression of transactional video on demand. So all the things that people pay for come first, and then after that, it goes to whatever streamers will have it, advertiser sponsored and such. But so much of that is beyond my control, and you just try to in this world try to figure out good ways to market it, to get it out there. And I appreciate you guys having me on so that we can expand the reach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we
For sure.
appreciate
And
you
then,
talking to us here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
there's other things about the film, like just to mention again, we filmed it in Pittsburgh. It's so cool, and you probably experienced this, in Clearwater as well, where once you leave the major filming areas, once you leave Hollywood and LA and New York and those, I guess now maybe up in Toronto and Vancouver, there's so much more interest in kind of being just generous with space and place and time. There everybody wants to, you want to use a house, it's money. You want to film outside, it's gobs of permits. And in Pittsburgh, it was so great. I grew up there, and so we asked this one church, can do that space. I thought would work well as a care home. We asked them, and they're just like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, sure. Here, use our basement. and we don't have classes during this, during these couple months, so you could use it there, and then you could use our chapel area for the scene. And the same thing, we needed a school setting, and a temple, gave us their interior and exterior to be able to shoot there. And some the Airbnbs, I said, hey, we want to shoot a film on this. They're like, yeah, that's great. Whereas like there'd be no way
Oh,
in
yeah.
LA you want to shoot a film in an Airbnb. So there's like that
If you
beautiful
want to talk to
generosity
him,
that
you gotta give him
happens.
$200 to talk to him
Yeah.
about shooting there.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really, really, really cool. Um, and then I guess like I got to promote the cast. The cast on the film was just fantastic. So much fun to work with. We got people. Again, it's the opportunity. That's part of what independent film does too. Is like it's giving people opportunities to get these roles that that we're all trying to get, that have a little bit of meat on them that they get to play with, and so much, in whatever level you're dealing with, so much of directing is casting. And if you cast people who fit and who are good and playful and exploratory, they'll always surprise you, and they'll always, the direction, I think, again, unless you're Fincher or somebody else, the direction is oftentimes just in the casting, and from there it's just a little bit of like, giving ideas, because the actors already know their character, and so it's just kind of throwing a suggestion out, seeing what they do with that, or sometimes a technical thing where they might not be aware of where the camera is, to lift their eyes and all. And it's just a beautiful experience to work with him. And the same with the crew. Our production designer, Adrian Wittenberg. I knew nothing about the production design other than how it comes out on film, but like it's creating a whole nother character, and all the little hints and pieces and creativity. It's just so cool. It's one of the things just so cool about film is that everybody's skill, lights up the screen, the lighting design. And you're looking at it like, how do I know what the day was. I know it was a gloomy day, but somehow or another, there's this beautiful golden sunlight dripping through the window, and everybody having all that excitement about their craft, and having that, bleed into the film. And if it's in the film, it's bleeding into the audience's hearts. And it's great.
That's awesome, man. That's, I think, also the best part is, when you have everybody's heart is fully into it, that's just going to enhance the quality of the film and the enjoyability of the film for the people who get to see it. So, congratulations on that. That sounds like you guys just pulled off just a really great movie with a really great cast and, team and everything, story, and seems like everything worked out the way it needed to. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. So,
yeah. Making people laugh a little bit, making people cry a little bit, and empathize a little bit, and again, in the end, with this being a film about trying to understand, somebody who's going through their gender identity, so not infrequently, like so many times people have come up after the film and said, this happened in my family, and I can't believe you relate all this in this way. We had one guy in Pittsburgh. He said, if I didn't know any better, I swear you have been following me for the last couple of years, because this was my experience. And one family we showed in Beloit at the Beloit International Film Festival, and the parents saw the film, and then we just had a showing in Chicago, and they brought their daughter who had gone through transition, and she was just so remarkably generous and crying and happy, that grateful for that this film was out there to tell the story in this way. And again, some people might not like the way we tell the story because it's a little bit rough, and not everybody it is definitely not politically correct. Like not everybody in the film gets it. But the families that have gone through it connect to it, and that's really meaningful. That's really meaningful. So we did. I think we did something. We touched a string that we meant to touch, and hopefully made it universal as opposed to just like the. You know, I always said that my main target for this film is, you know, the ESPN crowd, you know, that's watching Sports Center at 10:30 at night while, you know, before they're going to bed. Like that's who I want this film for. And from the folks that have been to it and seen it, I think we hit that. I think we hit that target.
Very awesome,
So
man.
thank you guys for having me on to talk about the film Two Lives in Pittsburgh, and you know, thank you for doing what you do about exploring film and talking about film again, kind of that same way, like, you know, as if you're three guys. This is how I imagine your podcast. It's like, you know, sometimes you're at a bar and you're listening to somebody else's conversation, and you're like, wow, that's an interesting conversation about that film, and you're just sitting there drinking your beer, listening to other people talk about their thing, and you guys, I think, bring film to life in a very you know, accessible, fun, everyday way, which is again a great thing to do.
No, thank
Well,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for, you know, checking out the
Yeah.
episodes, and
And
definitely.
That's actually how we got together, was all drinking beer, talking about movies.
Yeah, basically. But this has been awesome, man. What we'll do is this episode will come out this Wednesday. I'll give you a chance to put
Okay.
it out. So what we'll do is I'll reach out to you through social media. We'll show you with the post. I believe I sent you a friend request. I think on Facebook. I think you accepted.
Okay.
Remember correctly. So when we do it through our Movie Talks and Chill page, it gets sent to my page. So I'll tag you in that. If there's any like additional, like, you know, website or any kind of information you want us to put in there, just send us the email so that way we can include it in the post. Just get everybody
Okay.
full access to you. And then when it does come out in streaming, you know, reach out again. That way we can repost that as well. So we'd be happy to do that for you.
Awesome. That's great.
Sure that, so, but again, we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time. We would like to have you back on again if you do get another, you know, when you get some more stuff going, or if you just want to come back on and BS about movies with us. You know, we're always
That's cool. That's great.
awesome. But thank you again, Brian Silverman, everybody, for those of you, Two Lives in Pittsburgh, check it out. We'll keep you updated into their progress on streaming and so forth. But until next time for Movie Talks and Chill, we are your hosts. I am Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And to our special guest, sir.
Brian Silverman. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thanks, Brian. Take
Thanks,
care.
Brian.
Much, Brian.